Good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon, Mr. Livingston.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello?
Hello, Ms. McBride. Mr. Manning did inform me that he may be a few minutes late, and if he is, for me to go ahead and start the meeting at 2 o'clock, so we get started on time. So if he's not here at 2 o'clock, I'll go ahead on and start the meeting in a minute. Hello, it's that time. Let me go ahead on and call the Transportation Ad Hoc Committee meeting to order for December 8th. Ms. Only or whomever here for the roll call, can you call the roll call for the committee?
Yes, sir. Malinowski,
Here.
McBride,
Here.
Livingston,
Here.
Manning, Myers.
So we have a quorum.
Yes, sir.
First item on the agenda is item 2, approval of the minutes from our November 19th meeting. Entertain a motion for approval of the minutes.
So move.
It's been moved.
Second.
Properly second. Any discussions, changes, deletions regarding the minutes? There being none, Ms. On, can you call the roll for the minutes?
Yes, sir. Malinowski,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Manning, Myers.
Miss Only,
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Only,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
was here, I answered, but I don't
Okay.
know if you could hear me. So I vote yes, and I was here at the beginning of the meeting.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Myers, and welcome.
Thank
Ms. Myers,
you.
Mr. Manning is running
Thank you,
late, so
sir.
that's why I'm chairing the meeting.
I heard you.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
The agenda is adopted. Was that the roll call for the minutes or the agenda just now? I'm sorry.
It was the minutes.
Entertain a motion for adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moving proper second. Staff, any change, deletions, anything?
No, Mr. Chair.
There being none, Mrs. Only, can you call the roll for the adoption of the agenda motion?
Yes, sir. Malinowski,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And that brings us to actions items for action number 4, and the 4A is Dirt Road Package K contract award. Mr. Brown, whomever from staff.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. We do have the Director of Transportation on the meeting. I will turn it over to Michael Niemeyer to address that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Staff requests the committee to approve Dirt Road Package K to McClam and Associates in the amount of $834,743.10, as well as approve a 10% construction contingency of $83,474.31, as well as another 10% utility contingency of $83,474.31, for a total of $1,001,691.72.
You've heard the staff recommendation. Any questions regarding staff recommendation? Mr. Mount, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since this is a contractual matter, I have a question that I'm not sure should be asked in the open session relating to the contract, and I'm wondering if we can go into an executive session if we have legal present. I see Mr. Jones is here. But it would be relating to a county legal question, not an outside one.
Okay. Do we have anyone here from legal?
If not, Mr. Chair, I would make a motion to defer this until the next week when we meet so that I can at least ask legal on my own about this question. And I kind of wanted the entire.
Hello, this is Brad Farah. I'm on the line.
Okay, I'll take your motion, Mr. Malinowski. You want to go into executive session and ask that question quickly?
Yes, sir. I'd like to make a motion to go to executive session for a contractual matter question.
Okay.
Second.
I'll second it.
It's moving properly second. Go into executive session. Ms. Only can call the roll for the motion of executive session.
Malinowski,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
And that would include administrative staff that need to be there, legal as well as council members.
You're muted, Mr. Malinowski.
Thank you. I would say legal and Administrator Brown anyway.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Possibly procurement.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Myers, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, just before we go into executive session, when you say administrative, you mean the transportation staff and the
Yeah,
administrative?
I mean, whoever Mr. Brown think ought to be there for administration, yes.
Okay. I just wanted to be sure the administrator wasn't about that. Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I could ask Mr. Malinowski, if we could just clarify for the purposes of the record that it would make sense for the Director of Transportation and the Director of Procurement to be a part of that executive session. Is that correct, sir?
They don't have to be. That's fine with me. They can be there. This relates to a matter that really doesn't involve them as in their positions.
Okay, well then they don't need to be in executive session.
Okay.
Okay.
she said softly, moving around her desk to examine his hand herself. Good. That ought to serve as a reminder to you, oughtn't it? You may leave for tonight. Do I still have to come back tomorrow? Said Harry, picking up his school bag with his left hand rather than his smart.
I see Mr. Livingston back. Let me drop down here. I see Mr. Malinowski back. I'm sorry, I'm trying to look through all these boxes. I see Councilwoman Myers back. I see Councilwoman McBride back. Okay, everybody's back. We took no action in executive session. I have a motion to come out of executive session.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Hearing none, we're out of executive session. As I said a minute ago, there was no action taken in executive session. Does anybody have a motion on item 4A dirt road package?
I do, Mr. Chair.
Go right ahead, Mr. Malinowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I make a motion that we defer item 4 until prior to the next council meeting, at which point in time we can have another transportation ad hoc committee meeting in order to allow staff time to determine the answers that were posed during executive session.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilman Malinowski, second by Councilwoman McBride. Deferral's non-debatable. All those in favor by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, unanimously, it's been deferred as per the direction of the motion. Item 4B, Transportation Program Advisory Committee TPAC discussion. There's no items in the agenda or attachments. This was just something that I felt like we ought to bring up. There's been discussion over the years about this committee. We recently saw in the newspaper there were some discussions about the Transportation Program Advisory Committee, the TPAC group, and I just felt like we might want to talk about the history of it, if anybody needs or interested in the history or the future. They are still meeting weekly, whether there are items that are being brought to them by council or staff for advice. Many times they don't have a quorum, so they don't take any official action anyway. And, we've got 5 new members coming on board, so I'm not necessarily looking for anything in depth. I just felt like it'd be good to put this before the committee to see if the committee thinks that there ought to be any consideration to looking at what the current and appropriate role should be for this advisory committee. Let me get over here. Mr. Malinowski's hands up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just recently, in the last few days, I read an article in which a lot of comments were made about the TPAC committee by current and former members of the TPAC committee. And I believe that some, if not a lot of that information was incorrect. And I did not really see, I don't know if staff or council members had the opportunity to weigh in on that or not. But I think that is something that our transportation department, in conjunction with the public information office, needs to set the record straight and refute and correct the misstatements that were given during that article. Because the biggest one is that the TPAC committee, my understanding, the way it was written was they thought they were going to be the gurus running all of the transportation funding and projects. And it was never set up that way. It was never stated that way. And there's an actually, you may recall, Chairman Manning, that going back quite a while ago when we were meeting on the TPAC committee and deciding what to do and what their authority would be, it was pretty much laid out what their authority was and what they could or couldn't do and how they were to take any of the items that came before them relating to transportation and had the opportunity to present them back to council as recommendations possibly, but not certainly the sole decider of what would take place. So I think that's what needs to be done at this point in time. And we've got new people in the transportation department to include Director Niemeyer, Assistant Director Steele. They may not be aware of what some of these discussions were back then either. So I think that's where we need to start. And when that discussion is completed, provide all the new council members coming in the information as to what the role of the TPAC committee is. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Malinowski. Mr. Livingston?
Mr. Malinowski, I want you to know that I 100%, no, 110% agree with what you're saying. I had the very, very same concern to the point where I actually pulled and asked the clerk to pull copies of all of the minutes from the TPAC meetings over the time, because I attended at least 95% of those meetings. And I realized what was being said was so inaccurate to the point where I pulled that so I could start working on that to try to get that information to folks too. You're so right about that. And we do have all the minutes of those meetings to reflect what happened in those meetings.
Ms. Myers, you're recognized.
I'm sorry for interrupting. The chairman may not have been finished. I'm sorry, Mr.
I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay. I'd just like to say, I'm all for correcting whatever is the record, but this council nor this public information office nor our administration is not regularly in the business of correcting errors in the newspaper. I would rather, since our practice is not to correct things that are wrong, and most articles about Richland County that are published in the newspaper are wrong, and they come generally from somebody who's seeding those articles for some political purpose. I'd rather see the time spent, since that is not our practice, rather see the time spent on first starting with the TPAC group. And, Mr. Livingston, you correctly said that there is a history of what TPAC was created for. Go back to them and explain that to them. And then if there's some training, God forbid that a council at Richland County should be trained, because that was a big issue when I came on board. But if there's some training that can be provided, I think that would be helpful. But we don't have a history of going gangbusters to correct public information. And I would suggest that we spend the time maybe training the group that is handling this as to what it is that they were created to do. And if Mr. Manning's suggestion is that that group needs to be reconstituted, let the new people who are coming on in January make that decision. But insofar as getting into whether or not we're going to get out and try to correct the record, that's never been our stance before, and I see no reason to expend time on that. Now, there are lots of things that are going on in Richland County that need public information and public relations attention that just don't get it. So I'd like to see it focused on stuff that is directly citizen impacting, for which they actually need information, for things that we are doing in their communities for which we provide no information, rather than redirecting the campaign to the TPAC and getting into a back and forth with them. I think we got to educate TPAC, educate the council on what TPAC does, educate our staff on what TPAC does, and move forward. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Ms. McBride?
Yeah. Mr. Chair, I agree both with Ms. Myers as well as Mr. Malinowski and Mr. Livingston. I think that both can be done. I think that has been one of our problems in not correcting misinformation. So I think that it's important that we correct the information, the misinformation that was put out there. And we need to inform the citizens of the protocol and the appropriateness of the committee and their responsibilities. And at the same time, I agree, I think that we should look at, I think Mr. Manning, you said that oftentimes there's not a quorum. So there appears to be a lack of interest, or for whatever reason, we need to look at revitalizing that task force and making it do what is needed to be done to help make us have an excellent program, a transportation program with input coming from the citizens. So my recommendation is that we do both. Thank you.
All right. Well, this is an item for action. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I make,
I'm sorry, but Mr. Manning, this is Brad Farah from Legal.
Yes, sir. You're recognized.
Yeah, thank you. If you like, I can forward to the committee the 51-slide PowerPoint presentation I gave to council in 2016, talking about all the issues you're talking about, what the strategic vision is for this body, whether y'all want to change it from advisory to oversight committee. That was all discussed in 2016.
Sure, a document that's a part of the county and the county council. I think that's fine to be sent to all the council.
And council members too.
Yeah.
Yep, I'll be happy to do that. And unrelated on the matter, there are no current cases involving what we discussed in executive session, just for the record.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we're on item 4B. We may go back to 4A with the information we got, but right now we're on 4B. Is there any motion anybody wants to make regarding the conversation we had about Mr. Malinowski?
thank you, Mr. Chair. I would make a motion that we have Mr. Farah's PowerPoint presentation brought to this, placed on the next agenda for this committee for review and discussion, so that we can make a decision to provide a recommendation to the full council as to what we would like to do regarding the TPAC committee.
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and second that Mr. Farah bring the PowerPoint shared with all council to this committee at its next meeting and go from there. It's been moved and second. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I oppose. Please put me down for no. All right, that passes. Given that Mr. Fair threw in some information that we had asked about, even though the motion was about defer to next meeting, this is a current meeting, might be the next meeting, depending on how you view it. Does anybody want to take the fact that he provided that information, do something different? Or do you want to leave the deferral in place to next meeting? Mr. Malinowski, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to leave it in place because while the one question was answered, there was still another one that I had.
That's fine. Is there any objection by anybody? All right, we'll leave that in place.
Thank you.
That brings us to item 5, adjournment.
Mr. Manning, before you adjourn,
Yes, Mr.
please,
Brown.
sir, could you consider go ahead and scheduling a meeting for next Tuesday?
Sure. All right, next Tuesday, would 2 o'clock next Tuesday, same time as this week, be fine with everybody?
Fine with me.
All right, well, I will, clerk, you on here? Miss Only?
Yes, sir. I'll send
All
out a
right,
meeting
well,
request.
pardon me?
I said I'll send out the meeting invite.
Thank you very much. So y'all can put that tentatively on your schedule, be official when it comes out from the clerk's office. Anybody else want to chime in with anything for the good of the organization? Well, I want to thank everybody on the committee. I'm sorry I was running a little late. Thank you, Mr. Livingston, for getting it called to order, Mr. Nehmeyer, and all your staff and all the county staff, Mr. Brown, everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And if there's no objection, we will stand adjourned.